Detective Pikachu? Is it Pokemon Presents Detective Pikachu?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like Pokemon Presents Detective Pikachu. Which on paper sounds pretty dope. But
on paper, none of this was dope.
No, on paper, it's something that could have worked.
Yeah, it could have. It could have. They introduced some things. I mean, this is our second time filming this because of the topic that came up before, and it wasn't even a disagreement. It was just
we just argued for a solid 30 minutes,
and we were both in agreement. But anyway, that's beside the point. We were basically having the conversation on whether or not they would actually make a legitimate Pokemon movie.
And I thought, even though we both agreed, even though it would make tons of money, we think, and I just thought in today's climate it wouldn't fly. It would animal rights activists.
Animal rights people would never let that movie happen.
Yeah, to see animals getting injured like that.
That being said,
stupid,
it's kind of a shame because
you could have made a really cool action adventure movie.
Yeah.
On the simple Ash storyline.
Yeah, the Ash Ketchum adventure, trying to catch them all storyline. But this, I understand why they went this way. Again, like you said, on paper, this was it was a cool idea. Cool. It was almost like a noir film. At least that's how it was advertised.
Well, there were elements that were, especially how it was shot. Like, think about when Catherine Newton's character is introduced, and they're in the apartment lobby, and it's like all dark and it's foggy, and it's like they're really going for this like noir detective.
And I was
story.
on board at the beginning,
and then it just kind of
it ends up not being that.
No, it is a bit of
there's a lot of
whodunit type.
There's a lot of things that just happen.
Yeah. It's not...
They don't really figure anything out. It just happens.
Yeah, they're there. They just happen to be somewhere where something plays out in front of them, and they're like, oh. Yeah. And it's not really... I mean, there's not a whole lot of... whole lot of detective work being done. The
best part of this movie, Ryan Reynolds, I think we're in agreement.
He's what kept it watchable. Like, when I was watching it, I remember thinking, like, I'm not, like, enjoying this a ton, but I'm also not like, let's turn this off.
Mm-hmm. He keeps it moving forward.
And the story is the mystery is, even though it's not great, it's good enough to keep you invested,
Until it ends. Because the bad guy in this has no... I understand why he was doing the experiment. You find out there's a guy behind doing the experiments.
He's someone that has lost physical ability in his legs, and he's kind of doing a...
he's trying to transfer his consciousness
to a Pokemon so that he can, like, walk and, move around. And then...
But for some reason...
He wants to make everyone join consciousness with their Pokemon, and it's not explained.
Yeah.
And it's like, in what, like...
Why? Why do you want
even if they had explained it, even if it was like in a villain-type monologue, you know how villains always have a monologue, like, this is why I want to do this. Even if it was that, it's like, okay, I guess it's justified, but there is no reason behind it whatsoever. If he... Totally understand why he would want to walk again and do that. And it's like, fine, do that, man. But his whole plan, it just didn't make sense.
No.
Maybe Rhyme City domination, because Rhyme City's like where they live. That's where the setting is of. It's in a world where humans and Pokemon coexist like friendly life.
And they make the comment at the beginning that that's like the one city where this is actually happening.
Right. The rest, everywhere else, it's like Pokemon are wild animals.
Yeah.
But Rhyme City, they're like companions almost. And that I didn't mind that. I thought that was kind of cool.
The world they set up in this movie is a really cool world.
But I think that's really kind of why I bought in to the, like, especially when I saw the preview.
I thought the Pokemon looked great.
Pokemon looked pretty good. I wanted them to dive more into, like, Pokemon having different jobs. Kind of, different jobs in the sense of, like, oh, well, their kind of power or ability translates to this specific job, and that'd be kind of cool. And they don't really do that. I kind of gathered that from the posters and like the trailers, but it didn't really play out that way. And it's something that, while it was somewhat creative, it could have been much more creative. Mm-hmm. And I wish they had just like dived more into the world, but less into the story. Really, it just wasn't that. It wasn't really that captivating. You know, like
no, it really wasn't.
It wasn't completely boring, but it wasn't great. It wasn't that. It really
it's
wasn't
funny
good.
when it starts off, and it's kind of being a noir film. It has some elements that really remind you of Zootopia.
That's another reason it kind of pissed me off. There are a lot of
it's
elements
almost it's like halfway through this, and they started going, whoa, this is way too much like Zootopia, and it kind of went away from...
there's what starts off the whole kind of investigation is that there is a gas, like a potion, that when people, like humans, inhale it, they kind of become disoriented. But when Pokemons inhale it, they become like wild animals, like savages, just like Zootopia. And it's not happening a whole lot, but it is pertaining to the main character. Like, where is this coming from, and why is it doing this, and why are people using this to make Pokemon go kind of crazy? Mm. And it's like, that's exactly like Zootopia. It actually makes me wonder if the script for Detective Pikachu had been written before Zootopia came out. Hey, Bailey. You know? Because you're right. Like, I think it started out and it was almost exactly like Zootopia, and then it changed. And honestly, the first half I thought was much better than the second half. Mm-hmm. And part of that was because it was like, oh, this is kind of like Zootopia. It's like a live-action Zootopia with a little bit of a difference with there's humans involved. But that being said, I mean, it still felt like a rip-off of Zootopia.
How did you feel about Justice Smith?
There were parts he was pretty good. His back and forth with Ryan Reynolds actually wasn't too bad in parts. He was actually halfway decent. But then there were parts where I was like, oh, he's not that great of an actor. No. You know?
I felt the same way. He played well with Ryan Reynolds, but it's like
how much of that is Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah. Like, he was literally propelling...
But it was like, he basically was like a PG Deadpool. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of sad that, like, Ryan Reynolds crushes it with that type of character. He's so funny and he's so quick. But it does suck. It's like, I really hope movies now aren't like, oh, if you could just be Deadpool, that'd be great. Yeah. Like, Ryan Reynolds is a good actor, and he's a good comedic actor, and he doesn't always have to be, like, fast-talking, like...
He plays the same character in
Hobbs and Shaw. Yeah. Yeah, he does. And I really hope that doesn't happen. But he does carry the movie because almost all the funny lines are Ryan Reynolds. He's the main part of he's the detective. He's the one really trying to push the story forward.
He's lost his memory.
He's just trying. He knows that
he has like a huge gap. Like he's got a hole in his memory. He remembers stuff before and he remembers stuff after.
He has amnesia. I mean, it's very classic case of amnesia, and he's trying to find out what happened to his partner. Yeah. And I'm telling, like, that story setup is fine. Like, it's something where you're like, okay, like, I'm into this, like, what's going on? But what it becomes is just not as... The setup was much more intriguing than the payoff. One scene that I liked, actually, I liked the Mr. Mime scene, because that was... Because it felt like a noir film. It felt like they were interrogating Mr. Mime, but they went about it with like Pokemon logic, where Mr. Mime doesn't talk, but he mimes everything out. So they have to interrogate him by miming things. So they'll pretend to put gasoline near him, and then they pretend to light a match, and then he starts he starts miming out, and he starts talking. And I thought that was
it was really clever.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty clever, but it happened so early in the movie. I was like, if we get more of this, I'm on board. Like, this is really cool.
Yeah.
And they stop doing stuff like that, and it just kind of bummed me out.
It wasn't like, I think it would have been cool to see them go around this town and having to interrogate Pokemon along with people.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, they were working alongside people, and it really would have played really cool. And it stops about 35, 40 minutes in.
Mm-hmm.
They just stopped doing that.
Yeah. Did you like? I guess it is kind of a twist because you could have picked up on it, but it's something that I actually did kind of like this twist where the main bad guy, his Pokemon is Ditto. And you don't know it's Ditto until the end, but because the whole time he has like a right-hand woman, and she's like always there for him and does stuff, like she's doing stuff for him. And it wasn't until like the end that I really thought about it. She had like pink gloves on. I was like, oh, that's like a strange like style choice.
Yeah.
But then it's like, oh no, she's Ditto. Like Ditto's pink, and Ditto can transform into anything. And I thought that was pretty. And that device of Ditto is used pretty well because she transforms into another character that you think is one character, and it's actually just Ditto.
Yeah.
And I thought that was okay.
The other aspect I think that probably could have been used more that they went away from was the actress that's the, I guess, love interest.
Catherine Newton?
Catherine Newton.
See, I thought she was okay.
But no, but I'm talking about like they had somebody that was a reporter, and she
was
information.
She was into like investigating, and I guess personally that's just me being a sucker.
She had some information that he didn't have, and she became along for the ride, which added an interesting element because I think she's a pretty good actress, and she wasn't bad in this.
No, she wasn't bad, but I mean, no one acting wise was that great in this movie. I mean, Ken Watanabe and Bill Nye, they felt like they were kind of just phoning it in. Mm-hmm. Justice Smith was okay. Catherine Newton truly probably was the best actual actor in this movie.
Well, my point was, I thought that was an interesting story. Not an interesting story element. It was a good story element. It just was like poorly used. Like
it goes back to she's introduced early on, and the setup of it is like we're about to really get into an investigation that could be really cool, like to see them go into, because I'm a sucker for investigative type movies, whether it's reporting like in Spotlight or whether it's like a classic detective noir film. Yeah. They're always interesting to me, and they tried to do a detective film, but they also tried to do like an action adventure Pokemon film, and they didn't execute on either one. No. So by the end, it just feels flat.
Yeah. What do you give this movie?
Oh, I think like a C. Like, I don't even know if... It is watchable, and maybe I would recommend it for kids, because Pikachu is cute. Like, it's... You could watch it, and you're like, God, like,
second thing, is there... I'd probably give it a C as well, if not a C minus.
Okay.
Is there a scene that sticks out to you?
Honestly, probably the Mr. Mime scene. Like, that was when I was like, oh, like, I think I might be on board for this movie.
Yeah, and this... I'm about to mention something which I think led to our argument before. But my favorite scene might have been the Pokemon battle scene, which you never actually really... You see a snippet of the battle before, but it was Gengar fighting someone else.
Yes.
And I was like, I want to see that.
You see, that, it also played on my nostalgia.
Yeah.
Of playing Pokemon games and having the Pokemon cards and like being into Pokemon, so that by the time, like when I'm watching it, I'm like, wow, like I was recounting Pokemon that I haven't thought about in years, because I haven't played any of the games or really done anything with Pokemon in long time, real long time, since I was a little kid. And that was like fun in that Pokemon, that sequence where there's the battle between Gengar, and there was another Pokemon, and then the battle between Pikachu and Charizard.
Yeah.
it was like, wow, like it did. It played on my.
You sat there and gone, they could have like, but they're not going to. Like we just said earlier in the movie, that we'll never see that.
They're not going. They would not fly.
Yeah,
you know,
and it's sad to say
because it's something that could be really cool.
Yeah,
and I honestly hope they make a movie like that. I hope they're like, fuck it, let's just do that.
Mm-hmm. But that's, I mean, it's.
I just don't see it.
So long. That's a long shot that ever happens. But anyway, I mean, I think that's all we really have to say about.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. There's nothing. There was just nothing. It didn't grab me. Like it's something that it probably could have, and I think that's more it was more disappointing for me.
Yeah.
Because they were setting up things that I was like the direction they were going, and then it just fell flat.
I thought it was cool at the very beginning where it shows they're trying to catch him a Pokemon. They're trying to show him catch a Pokemon. I thought that was like.
You thought that was going to be more of a.
No, I didn't think it was going to be more of a story, but I was like, I want to see more of that. Like, I want to see the Ash Ketchum story ultimately, but. No, I mean, it was more of, it touched on a lot of nostalgia things, which made it watchable along with Ryan Reynolds. But then,
another question: do you plan on watching this again?
If there's nothing else on and it's on TV,
like, see, even then, I think I might like take a nap. You know, like I don't see myself watching this again. Like if I see it on, I'm gonna pass over it. So,
all right, well that's our take
with Detective Pikachu. Excuse me.